Hey everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at how to find the slope of a line given its ordered pairs on a table. So there's actually two methods I'm going to show for doing this. One is kind of like the shortcut method, and one is just to apply the slope formula, which we discussed in the prior video. So the first thing I can do is I can look at, again, the rise over run, which also translates to the change in y over the change in x. So when I look at the table, when I say change, that's kind of like the difference or almost like subtracting your value. So it's very similar to the slope formula. But instead of applying the actual formula, we can just look at our values. I can look at any two pairings here. It doesn't matter which ones. Okay, I think it's easiest if you do the ones that are next to each other, but I could look at any difference of these. Okay, doesn't matter which ones I pick. And I'm looking for the difference between your two. So what I like to do is I ask myself, how do you get from 50 to 10? Well, you would subtract 40. So that's the difference that we have here. Okay. And how would you get from negative 10 to negative 2? Well, you'd be adding 8 to do that. Okay, so this represents the change in y. This represents the change in x. And we know that slope is just the change in y, which would be negative 40, over the change in x, which would be 8, and negative 5 would be your answer here. Again, you could pick any 2 points. It doesn't matter which ones. You have a list of 4 here, so just pick any 2. Now, a second method for doing this, you could also, again, pick 2 points and just apply the slope formula. So I'll use the first 2 points here. I have the point negative 10, 50, and I have the point negative 2, 10. Okay, so I have my x1, my y1, my x2, and my y2. Well, let's go ahead and use the slope formula, so that it would be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, 10 minus 50, that's going to give me negative 40, and negative 2 minus a negative 10 becomes a plus. And if you notice, either method still yields the same answer. Those are the same thing. We will get negative 5 for either one. Okay, so if it's easy to figure out the difference, I would go with that method. If it's tough to see, or if you're not great with mental math and looking at the numbers and being able to get the difference quickly, you can always use the slope formula. That's always a good way to go if you are comfortable with that. All right, let's take a look at a couple more. Okay, so on the first one, this one looks pretty simple. I'm just going to look for the change in y over the change in x. The change in y, how do I get from 3 to 9? I'm adding 6, so that's plus 6, positive 6. And how do I get from 2 to 5? Well, I'm adding 3 on that one. So change in y over the change in x. The change in y for this one is 6. The change in x is 3. And my final answer would be 2 for this one. This one, not the second one, B, not as easy to figure out what our value is going to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the slope formula using the first 2 points. So I have negative 4, 6.5, and I have 2, 2.75. So again, x1, y1, x2, and y2, and let's use the slope formula. So it's y2, 2.75, minus y1, which is 6.5, over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is negative 4. Okay, so 2.75 minus 6.5, that's going to give me negative 3.75 all over 2 minus a negative 4, which becomes a positive, which would be 6. Put that in a calculator. You can either get the decimal or the fraction answer. This one's actually is going to reduce to, I believe, negative 5 over 8 when you reduce it. So preferably, because it is a rate of change or a slope, you want to get it into a fraction because that's what you're using to get the slope. You want your slope to be a fraction. You don't really like to have decimal slopes in this case. All right, so again, either way works here. It doesn't matter which method you choose, whether you're just finding the difference between 2 of your points or you're applying the slope formula by picking 2 of your ordered pairs. Either one will yield the same answer in your slope.